Good morning and welcome back, everyone. We are a little bit behind schedule this morning already and are trying to make up time from yesterday. So to all those who have speaking parts in the play today, please talk fast and be as brief as you possibly can. We do have some very firm constraints on schedule today, so we will absolutely, under any circumstances, we will be ending this meeting at 11:30, and the chair will manage the agenda accordingly. We will start the meeting today with the call to the audience that we didn't have yesterday because we were in a tuition setting. And then we will go back and complete the resources agenda with Regent Calderon, including item 6 that was tabled yesterday. As we begin call to the audience, if you have materials for the Regents, please give them to our Board Secretary, Peggy Martin. At the table behind me in green, she will distribute them to us. This is an opportunity this morning for individuals to address the entire board in our public setting and express any views and concerns. As is our practice, we do not respond to comments made during call to audience. However, rest assured, we do hear your remarks, and we will have an appropriate person follow up and provide information on any requests or specific items raised. Each speaker will have no more than 3 minutes. Peggy will hold up a sign indicating how much time that you have remaining, and then I will ask you to wrap up your remarks if you are running over that allotted time. Peggy, please call out the names of the speakers and bring our first speaker to the podium.
Our first speaker this morning is Glenn Rosenberg, who will be followed by Len Johnson.
Good morning. I'm Glenn Rosenberg. I'm the Chief Technology Officer and Vice President of Prism Solar Technologies. I'm here today to talk a bit about my research collaboration efforts with the University of Arizona. Here in Arizona, Prism Solar does research and development into a unique type of holographic optics that's incorporated as a material into photovoltaic panels, which are used in the solar industry. And when I think about technology, there's the acronym I use for it is talent, excellence, and collaboration. And that's what I've been working on and experiencing with the University of Arizona. I work with Dr. Ray Kostick at the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering, as well as Alex Cronin from the Department of Physics. We have excellent collaborations. I, in fact, hired my entire R&D staff from the University of Arizona in a very short period of time through this collaboration with these professors. It's been an excellent experience in that regard. In addition, as the University of Arizona and Arizona State University have been funded by the Arizona Science Foundation to become centers of excellence, this is the other piece of the puzzle in this collaboration that works well. Having a focus on my industry by the universities is very advantageous. And then in addition to that, the ease in which I've found collaboration with the university to work well. And so my industry, the photovoltaic industry of the solar energy sector, really is currently driven by technology. The manufacturing of modules has shifted. It grew by 110% last year. It's the only industry that grows with the kind of double and triple digit numbers that you'll find these days. And still, it's a fraction of 1% of the total energy industry. So it has a long way to go, and it's hungry for technology. And so collaborative partnerships with excellent research universities, in my opinion, provides a unique opportunity for those universities, as well as the local businesses that can benefit from that, to collaborate and move forward. Most of the manufacturing of PV modules has shifted to China, but the one thing in the industry that it's really focused on now from the drive to start up new businesses is on technology development. And with the research staff at the University of Arizona and other universities around the country, it creates a unique opportunity for business and universities to capitalize on this unique opportunity for an industry that's in high growth mode. So with that, I'd like to wrap up. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to such an honored panel, and And I hope that our collaboration with the university continues well, and I look forward to ongoing work with it and also being involved in committees and organizations that further that. Thank you.
Len Johnson, followed by Cheryl Speyer.
Hi there, my name is Len Johnson, and I'm here to speak about U of A healthcare and athletics, 2 items on the agenda today, so I think this is very fitting. I'd like to start by saying I have a lot of respect for University President Robert Shelton. I'll tell you why in a second. I was working as a television reporter in a newsroom in 2005 when a lady named Chantanise Polk died of a clot, a huge clot, a pulmonary embolism. She went down in a pile. You may remember the name. She's cited by many as being the greatest female women's basketball player here ever. When I got the family side of the story, they said there was more to it. The story was shut down by then athletic director Jim Livengood. And I spent a year and a half trying to get that family full medical records. I finally filed a complaint with the Arizona Medical Board after we got the records. The records read like a layman, or to a layman, like a bad Frankenstein movie. They were littered with signs of clot indicators after her surgery that was 6 months before her death. She didn't have to die, and the medical officials in place said there was nothing they could do and they couldn't see it coming. The medical board ruled in favor of the complaint. They ruled negligence, and they said that team doctor Don Porter did more than that. He did actual harm. He helped kill her. Don Porter has been cited twice by the Arizona Medical Board. The first time was for failure to diagnose cancer, and her surgeon, John Nisbet, who orthopedic surgeons here who have subsequently looked at the record said never should have performed that surgery because her knee was shot. He has a previous medical record for operating on the wrong hip of a then 18-year-old athlete. That athlete told me that she repeatedly told John K. Nisbet at University Orthopedic Surgeons which hip to operate on. He couldn't get it right before the surgery. She almost backed out. She drew a circle on her hip and said, it's this one and not the other, and he still operated on the wrong hip. When she woke up, he said, your hip is fixed, honey. She said, no, dummy, it's not fixed. And he hired a man to stalk her for the next year, scared her to death. She said, that man came to my home. He's still working at University Orthopedic Surgeons. Robert Shelton, for some reason, dismissed Jim Livengood. I respect that. A lot of the staff is gone, but we need to make a change there when it comes to health care. We need to get rid of Don Porter. We need to get rid of John K. Nisbet, who's operating on these athletes. I know Cole Davis throws a lot of money at this school, and he donated $1 million to this university, $1 million in the name of Chantanise Polk after her death. And he uses the word leadership a lot. Well, Cole Davis, let's get the right leadership in here. Let's get someone in with a clean record. I've called every other school in the Pac-10, and they said they were appalled that our team doctor has 2 reprimands from the medical board. And if you think, well, it could happen to anyone, I offer this. There's 18,000 licensed surgeons in this state. Less than 1% have any board action taken against them. Porter's had 2. I'm a Wildcat. My wife's a Wildcat. No one screamed louder at that tournament run than we did. So I offer what my 4-year-old daughter says, go Cats, let's go. Let's go in the right direction. Thank you very much.
Cheryl Speyer, followed by Emily Connolly.
Good morning. I am Cheryl Speyer. Dear Arizona Board of Regents members, in the fall of 2010, I was a 4.0 graduate student in Arizona State University's Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College. During that time, their faculty repeatedly broke many of their own published procedures and protocols and denied me my rights as a student. As a result of not allowing me my right to defend myself properly, I was involuntarily removed not only from my teaching program, but graduate school altogether. I am here today to have my voice heard. I realize that I am only one student out of a sea of many thousands. However, what happened to this one student was wrong. For the past 6 months, I have been filing appeal after appeal, trying to weave my way through the bureaucracy of hidden information, not knowing where or who to turn to for help. It was a daunting task, and it was too much to ask of any student. I understand why so many students in my shoes have simply walked away, silent, intimidated. Intimidated against such a giant institution as ASU, powerless by the lack of information or help provided by the university. I believe that ASU knows this and abuses this knowledge. ASU knows they hold the power. They make and enforce the rules. They decide what information to provide to their students and where this information will be kept. They are the powerful Arizona State University. However, over time, power corrupts and arrogance sets in. I would say that when a teacher's college does not follow its own published procedures and breaks them at least 6 times with regard to one student, then they believe that they are above the law, arrogant, too powerful to be brought down and held accountable for their actions. They believe that they and they alone have the right to decide if a student is capable, and in their arrogance, they see what they are looking for. They do not see the student for who they really are, and they disregard any evidence that the student may present to defend themselves. Arrogance breeds contempt. I would like to see the Board of Regents take action against such arrogance and require the universities to provide published rules to their students with what the students' rights are and what the university is holding its faculty members accountable to. We, the students, have the right to know, and by the university essentially hiding this information in so many different places, it's nearly impossible to find our rights as a student. The university has made it easy for the faculty to hold us, the students, accountable. They have student handbooks. But what do we, the students, have to hold the university and its agents accountable? In hearing my voice today, I hope that you will also hear the voice of the future. No student should have to go through what I just went through. It was wrong, hurtful, and unnecessary. It is time for change, change that you and you alone are capable of mandating. Please, for the students that follow me, provide them with the information they need to succeed and defend themselves properly if the need ever arises. Thank you for listening. Respectfully submitted, Cheryl Spire.
Emily Conley, followed by Dominick Hernandez.
I'm here to address my concerns about the future of our educational opportunities in Arizona. I'd like to thank Regents Holmes and Ginther for accurately representing student views. But yesterday I watched you give to each of 19,000 resident undergraduates a rebate that was larger than my entire monthly salary for teaching 100 students last semester. I'm deeply concerned about the relative punitive approach you've taken with NAU and U of A for having reserves and the impact that will have on our ability to recruit and maintain excellent educators. In my opinion, you've now sacrificed hundreds of jobs and depleted our savings. And my constituents, who are the instructors and the researchers and the clinicians and students at the University of Arizona, will see an increase in cost of attendance and yet another increase in workload next year. But I suppose I should just suck it up and be grateful they will have jobs at all. The voice of 8,500 students has been ignored and stifled by misconceptions of what is actually important for academic excellence. And the simple fact remains there is no such thing as a high-quality undergraduate education delivered by a system that does not value graduate and professional students. Like the short-sighted leadership that appointed you, it's clear to me you do not understand the future of our state, the future of our children, depends on our ability to maintain quality. And looking into that future, when your sons and daughters want to go to the U of A, and lo and behold, there's no one willing to teach them, I hope you have the gall to look them in the eyes, and with all your infinite wisdom, tell them to suck it up too.
Dominick Hernandez, followed by Brian Roller.
Good morning, Regents. My name is Dominick Hernandez, and today I'm not going to speak to you as a student body president, but as a student of Arizona State University, a 6-year active duty Army disabled veteran and a citizen of Arizona. I'd like to start with restating the student voice of ASU. The Associated Students of Arizona State University President's Council, the ASU elected student representatives for over 70,000 students, and ASU's majority voice officially stated at the ABOR tuition hearing that they support the ASU tuition and fee proposal in its entirety, which includes no further cuts. Now, speaking for myself and the thousands of other students that are willing to bear the tuition increases in order to protect the quality of our education, I ask you to please listen and consider the following. Any cuts to ASU will result in a reduction in our educational quality and our ability to be competent and competitive professionals. $6 million in comparison to the total ASU budget may not seem like a lot, but what you have to understand is that $6 million reduction means $6 million of faculty and staff layoffs, program closures, reduced class offerings, and decreased student support services. And that means $6 million educational quality loss at ASU. And again, in the aggregate, $6 million may not seem like a lot of money, but I assure you that $6 million cut has a significant effect to the students' educational quality at ASU. We, the students, know the losses as a result of these cuts. We know the professors and the staff. These are Arizona citizens who are going to lose their job and not have the ability to feed their families. The reason why ASU cannot bear cuts without affecting their educational quality is because they have been cut beyond the bone and now operating at the marrow. There's just simply nowhere else to cut. Many of the students who have contacted you, the students that are in the forefront of our minds, the students who have repeatedly said to you that they cannot afford tuition increase, are often the same students that do in fact have other options, like the option to pay for their education through loans. And I honestly do not understand why investing in one's own education via loans is not seen as a viable option. I myself am currently investing in my education with loans. I also invested in my education with 6 years of service to the Army, risking my life in defense of this country. And that's the option of funding that I think shouldn't be a viable option for students. The true travesty and misdeed of students and their families, in my opinion, isn't an increase in tuition. It's allowing them to invest in an educational quality that is in jeopardy of being subpar and valueless. Students and their families may not like tuition increases, but it's a much better option than investing in an education that will not serve them when they are competing in the job market. Thank you.
Brian Roller.
Hello, my name is Brian Roller. I'm a grad student in the psychology department here at the U of A. I'm speaking on behalf of an organization called Students Against Guns in Education. As most of you may have heard, a bill passed yesterday that would allow students at the age of 18 to carry weapons around campus without a concealed weapons permit. I would be preaching to the choir if I talked about why that's a problem, but I do see another problem with this bill, provided it's not vetoed, as far as the universities are concerned. We're left in a situation where there are two ways we can responsibly handle this. We can do the right thing for the student's safety, which would be very expensive and potentially not quite fiscally responsible. There are thousands of graduate students on this campus who teach or RTAs, and loads of professors. Bulletproof vests cost between $200 and $600. The responsible thing to do would also involve putting security at doors to make sure students are not bringing their guns into buildings, which is currently against the law. This could cost about $5,000 per door and result in up to a $45,000 installation fee and just require more security with manned checkpoints and things like that. Additionally, this law would make the universities in Arizona much less appealing to students who come from states that have tougher gun laws and don't let their students carry guns around campus. Additionally, many foreign students come from countries where even the police don't carry guns around on a regular basis. Given the fiscal state that this state of Arizona is in these universities, we could potentially find ourselves throwing away a lot of nice out-of-state money because we don't have good safety programs in place here on campus, provided this bill makes it all the way through. Things like that, in addition to security, may include things like practice space for students who do have guns, because right now this bill does not require a concealed weapons permit. You could go out and buy a gun and never have shot it before until you find yourself threatened, and that's ridiculous. But if that's what's going to happen, it might be more responsible for student activities to come along and have activities where students can come and actually learn how to shoot those guns, so that, God forbid, if they ever actually feel the need to use them, they don't take out the wrong person. However, this, as I listed off these figures, would cost a lot of money that this state does not have, and these universities do not have. So I hope that you consider and think about what the Board of Regents will do to make these universities safe if any of these ridiculous laws pass. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We will now turn to Regent Calderon to complete the resources agenda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We will now go to agenda item number 11, and we'll ask Regent Myers to continue with his research committee's report.
Well, thank you. We'll be brief. If I could have Laura Henneke, the Vice President of Research at NAU, Rick Shangra, the Senior Vice President for the Office of Knowledge Enterprise Development at ASU, and Leslie Tolbert, the Vice President for Research, Graduate Studies, and Economic Development at the U of A. Again, we're going to have the study session in June. I would encourage all of us to participate, and I think it's really a chance to focus on research. I also want you to understand we're working together as a team. And the three universities are greater when they leverage each other, they learn from each other, we work together. And this team of vice presidents are absolutely doing that and are paving the path for a really bright future in our research. So with that, let me turn it over to them to give a very quick overview of the technology transfer reports. And again, we'll go into more detail in June.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, thank you for this opportunity. We're going to be a tag team, and we're going to speak so fast you'll hardly know what happened. As an introduction, I want to remind you that the research task force that you put to work on research has been meeting regularly, and our work is toward helping the universities meet the 2020 goals of doubling research and increasing the impact of that research on the community. Of course, technology transfer is a key component of both of those. In all three universities this past year, tech transfer, as measured by the metrics that we annually report, has improved. And all of the details are in your book. So we're happy to answer questions, but I'm going to pass the microphone on to Laura next, and at the end of the three of us, you'll have a sense of where we're going with tech transfer. Thank you.
Thank you. As Regent Myers said, part of the focus of the task force is to ensure that the universities are learning from each other, and I think our tech transfer activities represent that very well. In fact, we have been learning best practices from across the institutions. As many of you know, about 2.5 years ago, Northern Arizona University restructured its technology transfer management, engaging a local partner, our Northern Arizona Center for Entrepreneurship and Technology, or NACET, to provide services and to help us build our own capacity on campus. And we've now restructured that partnership, NAU Ventures, to include direct work with the NAU Foundation, incorporating many of the practices, flexibility, capacities that AZTE has been providing to Arizona State University. And this year, the University of Arizona is similarly restructuring its technology transfer operations, again, to create some of the same kinds of capacity, flexibility, access to legal and financial expertise, and so forth. So that is one very concrete representation of how all three universities are trying to coordinate their efforts and to learn from one another to increase our capacity to serve the state.
Regent Myers, Regent Calderon, Madam Chair. The third point we'd like to make, in addition to making the point that our numbers have gone up over the last year, in addition to the point that we're restructuring our enterprises to be more effective in tech transfer, is the third point, and it relates to the fact that we're becoming much more focused. You saw in our reports last night for TRIF funding for the next 5 years that we have identified some key areas that we'll be working in. Those key areas will tie directly back to our technology transfer activities, including the creation of new companies, including the development of patent and patenting licensing of patents, and also invention disclosures around those key areas. It's with this focus that we consider the ability for us to be incredibly effective in terms of producing the economic benefit to the state that TRIF was asked to do by the citizens of Arizona. And with that focus, we expect to continue to do what we're now doing on a routine basis, which is building startup companies, generating intellectual property that can be used for the good of our citizens and economic development, and expanding and continuing the growth of research enterprise in Arizona. Thank you.
Regent Calderon, that concludes our report. This was for information only. If there are any questions, we're happy to answer those.
Thank you, Regent Meyer, and thank you for your committee's hard work. We appreciate it. The consolidated focus is precisely what this board wants, and we really appreciate the fact that you're all working together. I think we'll achieve greatness by doing so, and thank you. With that, we now move back to agenda item number 8. That is a request to request an exception. Oh, scratch that. I'm sorry. It's 6. Agenda item number 6. I'm sorry. It's the setting of 2011-2012 rates for residence halls. This was tabled yesterday. The chair would entertain a motion to remove it from the table.
Moved.
Moved by the maker, Regent Killian, seconded by Regent Myers. All those in favor of removing this matter from the table, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carried unanimously. We now have before us a motion. The motion is that the 2011-2012 meal plan rates at Arizona State University and Northern Arizona University be adopted as presented in the executive summary. It would be my intent as the maker of the motion to modify this motion if the vice presidents have a different plan for today. If it's the same one, we'll vote on it again. But joining us at the table is Vice President Melissa Vito, Vice President David Biscay, Vice President James Rund, and Mark Denke of our central office. So Mark, where are we this morning?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have met a few times, and the vice presidents are prepared to present a proposal.
Great. With that, let's go ahead and start with the University of Arizona, and then we'll proceed down the table with Vice President Rund batting cleanup.
Thank you. We had a good meeting yesterday afternoon. Thank you, Regent Killian. And we went back. I worked with staff, and upon request, we went back and reduced our rates across the board to a weighted average of about 3.5%. And what we talked a little bit about yesterday that I just wanted to take a minute and reiterate is that our residence halls are really learning communities, and so they are not just apartment complexes. We have staff there and academic support, and we know that students who live in our hall, for instance, freshmen who lived in our hall in 2009 had a 12% higher GPA than those students, same characteristics, who lived off campus. Students who live in a hall for even one semester graduate at anywhere from 15 to 21% higher rates than those students who don't live on campus. And so we want to protect access to the halls, but we also provide learning support to those students who are there. So in reducing our rates and averaging at 3.5%, where that will leave us is in a place where we can do this for next year. We will probably defer some, we have a long-range 10-year plan where every summer we do some upkeep and remodeling to our halls, because we have some halls here that are older than probably any of us sitting here. And so we do work to those halls. We've been in a process of installing security cameras across the halls and upgrading technology. And so reducing our rates to 3.5% will be a change in revenue forecast of about $920,000. And we will go back and work with our students and rework what those priorities would be. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Biscay.
Thank you, Regent Calderon. The Northern Arizona University would propose lowering its rates from the proposed 3.53% to a weighted average of 2.99%, and maintaining their family housing rates at 2.07%.
Thank you, Mr. Rund. Dr. Rund.
Thank you, Regent Calderon. Thank you also, Regent Ginther and Regent Killian, for the discussion yesterday. ASU would like to retain the ASU facility housing rate at 3% and the ASU related entities rate to be modified to 3.5%.
Okay, great. Mr. Denke, do you want to summarize for us?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We now have revised housing rates being proposed. Arizona State University, as they each mentioned, to the percentages. And do you want the exact?
Yeah, if you could repeat the exact ones for us, and then.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, do we have this? Is there anything
yes,
written
we
on
do.
this?
Well, no. What they're saying right now, we do not have. What we have is from yesterday that had the 7% for Polytech and one at U of A. What they're saying is that they've reworked the numbers overnight.
They're going to give them to us now?
And these are the new numbers.
Okay.
These new numbers, I will, as the maker, and if the seconder of the motion will agree, these new numbers will be my motion. Go ahead, Mark.
Mr. Chairman, the meal plan rates remain the same as presented in the original documents in the executive summary, so that hasn't changed. What is being proposed as a revision is for Arizona State University an increase of 3% for the university residential facilities and 3.5% of the related entity residential facilities. Northern Arizona University an increase, a weighted average of 2.99% for their student housing, and the University of Arizona increase of a weighted average of 3.5% for both their undergraduate housing and graduate housing residential facilities.
Does anybody quickly recall who made the second yesterday? Peggy, do we know who made the second? All right, then since we can't recall who made the second yesterday, let's just go ahead and approach it this way. I'm going to withdraw the motion from yesterday, and there's no one who object to me withdrawing it because we don't know who made the second. So with that, let's just assume that I have a new motion with these new numbers, moved by myself, seconded by Regent DeConcini. Now I'm going to ask Regent Killian first because he was the one who. The steward who said, wait a minute, these are a little high. How do you feel about these new numbers, Regent Killian?
They're still too high. No, I'm just kidding. No, they're fine. I appreciate the universities going back and reworking the numbers. I'm just curious, this total savings to the students of these adjustments, do we know what that is? Have we figured that out yet or not?
Anybody can answer that?
If you don't have that right offhand, if you could get that to the regents, we'd appreciate that.
At Northern Arizona University, that's about $156,000.
Okay.
And the aggregate savings at the University of Arizona would be about $919,000.
I'll have to get back to you, Regent Killian. Ours is a little more complicated regarding the related entities.
Right.
But
Okay.
at our entities, there were no changes.
Go ahead, speak of the microphone.
There are no changes.
At our entities, the proposal, it remains what it was yesterday.
Right.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Regent Deaconcini.
Mark, can you turn to this page 2 of 25? Is that where you are?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, so starting at the top, that ASU, that stays the same. At Polytech, it comes down to 3.5. Is that correct?
That's
Okay.
correct. Yep,
And ASU West, it comes down to 3.5.
that's correct.
Okay. And downtown down to 3.5.
Correct.
And U of A comes down to 3.5. Is that correct? Okay. Thank you.
And NAU to 2.99.
And NAU down to 2 and 1. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just couldn't find the material.
Killian.
I don't want to correct Dr. Crow, but there would be a savings to the students based on these numbers.
Yeah, the point in our particular case, the complexity is that there are two numbers at the table, those that we charge for our facilities and those that our affiliates charge. And so there is a savings through the affiliates. The affiliates at the end of the day have higher levels of flexibility than this process actually suggests.
Right.
That is, they can, at the end of the day, charge what they want.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve these housing rates at the revised numbers, and with thanks to the people who worked all night on that, all those in favor, please, Madam Chair? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Thank you very much. Madam Chair, I believe that concludes the Resources Committee report.
Thank you. Perhaps the longest session in history over multiple days. So ably chaired by Regent Calderon. Next order of business is Capital and Project Finance Committee. Regent McClendon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The agenda item 22 and 23 will be the Capital and Project Finance Committee report. Agenda item 22 is a report on the March 17th Capital and Project Finance Committee meeting. For information only, at the meeting, the committee gave project approval for the U of A Bryant Bannister Tree Ring Building. As this project is between $5 and $20 million, the committee has authority to provide project approval, which we did. Lorenzo, could you please tell the members of the board where the money comes from for this project, just as a reminder?
Mr. Chairman, Regents, this project is a $12 million project in round numbers. $9 million is coming from gift funding and $3 million is coming from university funds.
Madam Chair, the committee also reviewed the quarterly capital project status reports. These reports update the committee on the status of projects that have been previously approved. We also submitted ASU submitted a pricing report on a recent $55.5 million system revenue bond issuance. The interest rates on university debt issuances continue to be favorable. The committee also received an update on the ongoing activities of the Tri-University Construction Administration Task Force. And this concludes the report from the committee. And if there are any questions at this time on any of these items, we have Lorenzo from staff at the table. Otherwise, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which was forwarded by the committee for board approval. Are there any questions? In agenda item 23, Northern Arizona University requests approval of 2 ground leases for third-party development of student housing on the Flagstaff campus. And Jane, are you going to be presenting this? So you can go right ahead.
Thank you, Regent McClendon. Regents, NAU has submitted the second draft of our summary of ground lease terms for 2 projects on the Flagstaff campus with American Campus Communities. Information has been submitted to you, and I will just open it up for questions at this time.
Are there any questions?
Chairman?
Regent Killian.
How many total units are we talking about?
We have a suite-style facility that has 550 beds, and we have an apartment-style facility that has 576.
Other questions? Thank you, Jane. I move that the board approve the NAU request to execute 2 ground leases with American Campus Communities for development of student housing on the Flagstaff campus as presented in the executive summary.
Second.
Chair Mariucci, we have a motion and a second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Mariucci, this concludes the Capital and Project Finance Committee agenda.
Thank you. And with similar haste, you may proceed with the Public Outreach and Legislative Affairs Committee report.
Mariucci, today's Public Outreach and Legislative Affairs Committee agenda consists of item 24, a report on public outreach and legislative activities. Katie Paquette and Christine Thompson will join us at the table for this item. I see Katie, so Katie, we'll just go for your part first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick update on public outreach activities. The vast majority of our work has centered around the state budget situation, tuition, Senate Bill 1115, and the progress the universities have made on expanding low-cost options. When the Senate introduced its budget in March, ABOR and the universities mobilized a wide variety of third-party allies to try to beat back the large cuts to the university system that were included in that budget. We reached out to the business and the civic community, alumni, and former regents, urging them to contact their state representatives and ask them to vote no on the Senate budget and support the governor's budget. In addition, Solutions Through Higher Education mobilized its 10,000 plus members and ran paid advertising during drive time on KFYI AM talk radio with a similar message. Between the budget and the tuition proposals, regents participated in more than a dozen interviews with television, print, and radio reporters. In addition, although Senate Bill 1115 would have been detrimental to the university system, it received quite a bit of media coverage and gave us an opportunity to get our message out about the positive work that's being done here at the Board of Regents. We received very positive editorial coverage from a wide variety of newspapers around the state about why the bill would be bad for Arizona and for the university system. Lastly, we continue to promote the partnerships that have been developed between the universities and the community colleges. We've been able to utilize Getting Ahead, which represents both the community colleges and the universities, to serve as an echo chamber for those institutions to promote those partnerships through news releases and opinion editorials. Regent Duval, as co-chair of Getting Ahead, has made several appearances on TV stations in the last month to highlight new degree programs that came online with the ASU Maricopa MAP program. That gives us an opportunity to discuss how that contributes to our statewide efforts to provide more options for students to pursue degrees. And with that, that concludes my remarks, Mr. Chairman. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions for Katie? Thank you, Katie. Christine Thompson is here for an updated list of bills impacting the university system. So, Christine, could you go ahead with your presentation, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief. I know the board is running behind. There are, as the budget wrapped up, there are a number of pieces of legislation that are still impacting the universities, which are in play. Legislature is looking to wrap up session in the next week or so, potentially 2 weeks, probably before the Easter holiday. There are as I said, a number of bills impacting us still in play. In the category of bills that would be helpful to the university system, the WICHE student loan repayment program, which would require students in the WICHE program who choose not to return to Arizona to repay the entire amount of their grant. That's on the consent calendar for next week. The list of bills that are potentially detrimental of note is 1467, one of the firearms pieces of legislation that would limit the educational institution's ability to restrict firearms in public rights of way. While the board would still have authority to restrict firearms in campus buildings and other areas, the bill would restrict the board's ability to ban weapons in public rights of way. That bill passed out of the House yesterday. It should be sent to the governor on Monday. We're drafting a letter asking the governor to veto that piece of legislation. I understand each of the presidents are doing the same. The community colleges are working on that, as well as the Arizona Chiefs of Police Association. Another firearms piece of legislation that's of interest is Senate Bill 1201, the Firearms Omnibus Bill. There have been several amendments to that piece of legislation. One amendment which may be taken up clarifies the exemption that educational institutions have, making it clear that we have the ability through another piece of statute to limit firearms on campus. So we've maintained a neutral position on that piece of legislation. That bill, however, is of great concern to a number of other constituencies. It would allow potentially conflicts between the Second Amendment and private property rights, and there are several business entities, stadium districts, et cetera, who are very concerned about that. There's going to be a stakeholders meeting on Monday, and we'll know whether that's going to move forward. But if the issues aren't resolved in a way that is satisfactory to all the stakeholders, there's going to be a very big push to try and ask the governor to veto that piece of legislation as well. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions on any other pieces of legislation.
Are there any questions? Regent Killian.
Mr. Chairman, Christine, I see we're still in operation, but where are we with the Biggs kill off the Board of Regents bill?
As Mr. Chairman, Regent Killian, as you know, no one is safe until sine die. Right. So as of right now, it is still mostly dead, and we don't believe it will be progressing any further. There has not been a move in recent weeks to resurrect it. There are no more committee hearings or any of that. They're really pushing bills through Cow third read and final read. So it looks like it's an issue that will not be dealt with this session.
There was no sneak attack in the budget language anywhere that we know of?
None at all, sir.
Mostly dead. I don't like that term.
Sine die, it will definitely be dead.
Mr. Chairman?
Regent Killian, we all know that it ain't over till it's over.
Right.
So, Mr. Chairman, a question?
Mr. Chairman?
DeConcini.
Christine, what's the speculation on the governor's decision, or do you care to speculate on the arms bill that you mentioned, the two arms bills that you mentioned?
I think in conversations some people have had with staff, there are several of these bills that potentially make our guns laws less clear to the public, and I think that's something that might resonate with the governor, but I think it's difficult to speculate where she may come down on this bill that impacts educational institutions and on the other firearms bills.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is the county attorneys and sheriff's association still in existence?
Yes, they are.
And is that friendly towards this legislation or in opposition to it?
Mr. Chairman, Senator, I am not sure whether the Sheriff's Association or whether the Prosecutors Association, Counties Attorneys Association have taken a position, but I'll find that out and let you know.
Thank you.
I believe they have.
You do?
Taken a position, and I have at least read accounts from several sheriffs and county organizations and police departments and so forth, certainly from campus police, who have definitely come out in opposition.
Well, I'm talking about there's a state association. It used to be county attorneys and sheriffs. Mm-hmm. There may be two now. I don't know.
It's two.
Are you talking about the same one?
And Mr. Chairman, Senator, I know that the Arizona Association of Chiefs of Police have taken
yes.
a position against
you
it,
said
but
that,
I'm unclear if the Sheriff's Association or if the county prosecutors have.
I just suspect a couple of sheriffs would be very much in favor of it, but I wonder, and the county attorneys, I just wonder. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Christine.
Other questions? Thank you, Christine. And Madam Chair, We have, as I indicated before, the session isn't over, but most folks think that it'll be over soon, and we must continue to be diligent in our efforts to make sure that our voices are heard. That concludes our report.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll now turn to President Shelton and the University of Arizona for their annual report on the business plan. In the interest of time, we'll allocate 30 minutes for this. President Shelton will speak for about 15, and if we can hold our questions to the end, we'll have half the time for Q&A from the regents. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair. As the slide presentation is brought up, I want to thank you for the opportunity. You have the slides in front of you, so you can work ahead even more rapidly than I can go through these, but I realize that we're starting about an hour late, so I will go fast. I apologize for the speed, but I am certainly willing to meet with anybody offline to go into any of the details that need to be clarified. Now I just need to make sure I know the magic button here. There we go. This presentation is organized around the 2020 plan and the enterprise goals. You can see here, I'm not going to read any of these slides to you, you all can handle that. But basically what we're going to do is go through these goals and show our strategies for attaining them, and then also indicate what resources will be necessary to fulfill the Regent's expectations for the enterprise plan. We are organized in these 4 quadrants: educational excellence and access, research excellence, workforce, and community, and the 4th goal is productivity. I'll present systematically on 3 of these 4. The 4th one, productivity, you will see is embedded in the other 3 goals. Indeed, the necessity to become even more productive is a requirement to achieve our enterprise plan goals. I remind you, however, that like our sister institutions, the University of Arizona is already, by any national study, an extremely efficient university in delivering undergraduate degrees. I'm thinking of, for example, like the Delta cost model. So let's start with educational excellence. A little bit of background. From 2008 to the present, you can see on 2 measures here, we chose enrollment and research, that is education and research. The numbers continue to go up. That's a tribute to our faculty, our staff, our students, a 10% increase in enrollment, a 31% increase in research awards. These aren't expenditures. Expenditures are higher, but these are awards. And that was attained with a reduction in workforce down in the lower section, fewer staff, fewer tenure-track faculty, fewer administrators. Those numbers hide a lot of complexity and basically reflect the changing nature of the workforce at the University of Arizona to deliver our multidimensional mission. So these are 2 broad parameters. As I said, there's a lot behind it. As we look for increased efficiencies, I thought it would be illustrative to show just a few areas in the operation of the university where our business plan is already making significant savings. You can see these. Again, I'm not going to read them to you, but the total, if you were to add up all 8 of these bars, moving downward to indicate savings, you'd come to about $17 million. These are just some of the operational efficiencies that are being implemented. And I want to assure you that we're going to continue our rigorous research. You can call it Lean Six Sigma, whatever title you want to put on it, for more efficiencies and savings in the future. You will appreciate also that each of these areas has its own complex issues and opportunities, and these thus require review on a regular basis. Now let me get into the business plan. Again, we're going to look at 4 components for each of the 3 quadrants: educational, research, excellence, and then workforce and community. I want to call your attention to how this presentation is organized, because that will be helpful to you if you go back and look at it later on and other questions arise. As I take you through each of the 3 quadrants, remember, again, productivity is embedded in all 3. The color codes, blue, red, green, yellow, where we're going to increase productivity, improve efficiency, maximize quality, we can never forget quality, and then identify the resources needed to do all this. Those color codes will appear in a top banner. So you can see exactly the component that we are discussing and the way it plays into the larger overall business plan. Okay, starting with educational excellence. if you look through the text, you will recognize these items as part and parcel of the 2020 plan and the enterprise model. All of this, I think, wraps up into that green square that reflects a commitment to quality in all aspects of the student's experience, not only increasing the numbers, but also increasing the quality, and doing so by placing clear responsibilities on various categories. You can see down there tenure track faculty and master teachers. As I alluded to earlier, the mix of how we deliver on our multidimensional mission is changing overall. The yellow block is there to remind all of us, certainly those of us that deal with this day in and day out, that we have to generate additional resources. So these relate to the metrics of the enterprise plan. Now I'm going to go through a series of bar charts showing where we've been and where we're projecting. Remember, this is a 5-year plan, so that's why you're going to see the year 2016